Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 220, the legal edition. I'm Kevin Carlson.
And I'm Alan Haley. And today is Wednesday, the 2nd of March, 2016.
Okay, welcome out there, Anglican Unscripted fans. And once again, I have Alan Haley, who's taken time out of his busy schedule. He's promised not to invoice us, but we're going to talk about legal things. And we got a report this morning that Bishop Bruno, who's the Bishop of the Diocese of Los Angeles, has decided not to come forth with financial information about a not-for-profit corporation he's in charge of. And we kind of have to backstep because this involves a lawsuit with St. James the Great, which used to be St. James Newport Beach, about whether or not he can sell the property. And Alan and I have discussed this a little bit in the past. He ran into trouble because the people who gave the property to the diocese said it could only be used for a church. He said, yeah, but you let me have a parking lot, so that means it's all mine. And now this is going to go to the courts. My question with Alan here is, I'm a not-for-profit with Anglican TV, and we have to provide our financials all the time. We don't make much. When people see that we only take in $12,000 a year, they have more pity for us than they do investigatory decisions. What does he have the ability to say, no, you can't see my finances?
Not really. First of all, let's understand what's going on here in terms of structure. Bishop Bruno is the sole shareholder, officer, and director of a special entity under California law called a corporation sole, S-O-L-E. And that entity under California law can be created by a religious body or organization such as a diocese or denomination to allow it to hold title to real property in a single entity that is perpetual. And then the incumbent changes from time to time according to the rules of that governing body. So when a new bishop is elected, he traditionally signs the papers and becomes the next incumbent. The corporation goes right on without any discontinuity, and so title is preserved in a constant state. You never have to worry about who owns title. Well, that corporation, of course, is a creature of the diocese. Both are non-profit in organizations, and so I'm quite certain both have to file a proper accounting with the state and federal authorities as to their income making or income producing activities. Typically, the corporation sole differs from what a corporation like Anglican TV is, because it doesn't go out and solicit donations from the public. The diocese and the churches individually do that. Rather, the parish is in the diocese, and they then turn money over to the diocese. But the corporation sole is not in the business of any solicitation or fundraising. It's simply there to hold property. So it's certainly accountable to its own diocese, and its financial records must at all times be available for access to the diocese, the treasurer of the diocese, and the diocesan council and the governing bodies and so on.
Well, you say available to leaders in the diocese. Can it be available also to members like a church?
I'm sure anybody in the diocese has the right to request the production of the records. They would go through the diocesan treasurer, it would seem to me, or if not directly to the bishop's office itself. And in this case, the announcement that he promised the diocesan convention in December that he was going to make these finances public, because there was a motion that was going to carry on the floor of the convention that would have arranged for an outside audit of all the corporation sole's affairs. And to avoid that, he said, no, I'll make everything public. That's not a problem. Well, come January, he changed his tune when he talked to his lawyers in the ongoing lawsuits. He said, wouldn't be such a good idea to disclose that information right now. Well, one has to ask why. In other words, here is a corporation sole that is the creature of the diocese and totally bound and beholden to it. And it's saying, if I'm involved in a lawsuit which prevents me from disclosing to you, my parent, what all my finances are. Does that suggest there might be a conflict of interest? I think there's a strong suggestion of conflict of interest here if his lawyers have to advise him that he can't disclose this information at this time due to legal concerns.
Well, they didn't say legal concerns. They said it might hurt him.
Yeah, well, that's concerns about the progress of his litigation. And let's remember there's two lawsuits, although they've now been both assigned to be heard under the same judge. One is the lawsuit that he started, Bishop Bruno, against the donors of the property to quiet title and say that it all belongs to him, as you said. And the second lawsuit is the one brought by St. James the Great against him for basically lying to them and trying to get rid of their property with no justification for it. And so the two lawsuits are intimately connected, because if he can't sell due to the restrictions placed by the donor, then he's got no business trying to dispose of the property, and the parish's lawsuit is correct. So I can't see how he gets away with continuing to refuse to disclose. If nothing else, the parties to the lawsuit, both the original donor and the parish themselves, have the right to force him, under the rules of discovery in a lawsuit, to produce all the documents. So they just have to make a formal request. He has to respond to it in 30 days, and if he still refuses, the court can order him on pain of contempt. So it's curious. It's a stance that's temporary. I don't see it lasting for very long, because it just can't be explained, and it's very embarrassing to me. I can't imagine being the diocese's public relations officer and being faced with saying, Bishop, I wouldn't make that announcement right now. Oh boy.
Well, let's also bring people up to date on litigations going around the country. You've been on Anglican Unscripted now for about 3 years, and every once in a while you come on and you say, well, this is what's happening in Texas, this is what's happening in Illinois, and for a large part, a lot of these lawsuits perpetuated by the Episcopal Church have dried up and either been won or lost by the Episcopal Church. What's still out there, let's see, Illinois was finished up with a victory for our side. There's an appeal going on in Texas. What's going on there?
Well, the remnant group that lost in the trial court now has filed an appeal with the Court of Appeals, and that's in its briefing phase at this point. So nothing's really going to happen in that until briefs are all filed, and then there'll be oral argument probably sometime maybe before the end of the year. Mm-hmm.
And then let's move on to South Carolina, which is the big one that you and I have certainly been following. We're expecting by next Wednesday, when you're on vacation or working somewhere else, that there'll be an announcement.
Yeah, every Wednesday I get up before 7 o'clock in the morning out here in the West to check the website of the South Carolina Supreme Court. And so far, as of this morning, again, no decision in the Episcopal Church case. So I'm sure it's going to happen next Wednesday, because that day is the day I'm down in Fresno arguing with Rusty Van Roosboom, arguing the case before the 5th District Court of Appeal from the San Joaquin decision.
Okay, and what's going on there?
Well, as I say, the Court of Appeal there now is hearing our appeal from the decision of the trial court rendered last spring, which basically gave the Episcopal Church everything it wanted without even considering the evidence, and simply saying that the matter had already been decided on the earlier appeal.
That's like a summary judgment.
Yeah. Well, no, it was after trial, but the court simply said, my hands are tied because of the earlier decision. Well, the earlier decision sent the case back to him for a trial. It did not tie his hands, we're arguing anyway. And it's going to be interesting to see how that appeal goes. We're basically hoping that the appellate court will say, no, we didn't mean anything of the kind, and here's the way it should have been tried. So I don't know exactly what's going to come of it, whether it'll be but I hope at least it will be a reversal, and whether there'll be a remand or not, we'll see. But that's going to be argued 1 week from today, starting at 9 o'clock in the morning in Fresno.
Well, the Episcopal Church has new leadership under presiding Bishop Michael Curry. And it was thought that maybe he would stop the lawsuits. Is that not happening?
No, I mean, you're dreaming. And if an institution like the Episcopal Church can't be turned around by a single person, then I think we're seeing that the momentum that it built up litigation momentum that built up under Jefferts Schori has such a head of steam that it's not going to be abated anytime soon. the opinions, the legal papers continue still to be filed with David Boothbeer's and Mary Costel's name on them. And they're appealing everything in sight. When the Quincy court awarded attorney's fees against the Episcopal Church, $36,000, you think they'd just pay it. No, they've appealed it. And so they're adding to their costs there. By the time they have to pay, they're going to have to pay attorney's fees on appeal too. So, that's going to be double the amount. So I don't know what's going on, but the Episcopal Church is spending money on litigation like there was just no change at all.
Okay, well, we were kind of wondering what was going to happen. It was certainly brought up at the primates meeting. What could the Episcopal Church do right now to change things? And Archbishop Foley said, "You can stop suing us."
Yes, exactly, and no change at all in that regard. And we still are waiting, of course, to hear what's happened with the suspensions at 8:15 on the staff, and that's being investigated by other lawyers. I'm reminded of three gentlemen talking about the nature of God. And the first one says, well, God must be a mathematician because he's got all these perfect formulas. Everything's balanced out just to the 100th decimal point. Couldn't be more perfect. And the second one says, no, he has to be an engineer because look at what he created out of all that chaos. And the third one talking, he happens to be a lawyer, said, well, who do you think made all that chaos?
That's right. It's a lawyer joke, shark joke, All right. Alan, I want to thank you for your time this week, and hopefully next Wednesday you have a free time in your day where we'll just discuss the results of the litigation in South Carolina, praying for victory for the diocese, but we'll have to see what happens. You never know, because if I remember correctly, one of the judges was an Episcopalian.
Yes, indeed. And she was openly biased and trying to slant the whole argument and the case in the favor of the Episcopal Church. So I don't know what's come of that. It certainly stalled things for a while, though.
Alan, thank you for your time.
Okay.